Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Rain. Welcome to Healing with the Inner Tarot. In this series, I will be using this book, The Inner Tarot by Kate Van Horn, as my guide to a 78 episode healing journey that I'm happy to share with you. So thank you so much for being here. Disclaimer time. I am not a therapist. I am a self-therapy enthusiast with some psychology education in my background. If you feel the need to seek professional help, please do so. There are a lot of resources out there. Also, some of the subject matter that we talk about in this series might be triggering for you, so I want you to keep that in mind as we're going along, okay? So why don't we get to the good stuff? In the description of this video, I'm including a downloadable PDF workbook with some homework you can do after watching today's show. Included in this workbook is a tarot spread that I created called Leaving My Legacy. So that's my gift to you. So let's get to it. Today we're talking about the Ten of Pentacles and how we can connect this card to our healing journey. Now here's the Ten of Pentacles. What is the Ten of Pentacles about? Well, this card is about deeply rooted connection with family. It's about lineage and community. It's about legacy, financial security, and long-term success. If we look at the card, we see an elderly man, probably the head of the family, sitting down and petting his dogs. He's wearing a beautiful cloak with rich colors. There is a couple that's standing in front of him in the archway of his estate, and we see a young child petting his dogs. Presumably the child is his grandchild. Now, if we look at the archway itself, we can see a set of scales that's been carved in, and this symbolizes justice. That man has earned his wealth through hard work, not through inheritance, through hard work. And if we take a good look at the left side of the card, there's another thing carved in there. We see a tower in the archway. This symbolizes the challenges that this old man overcame to get to where he is today. His children and grandchildren, they're not going to have to fight as hard as this man did to gain their wealth. He has created a legacy for them. And if we look at the dogs, dogs represent loyalty and family. The old man has created a secure foundation for his family. He's happy to share his abundance with them. Now, if we look at the reversed Ten of Pentacles, we might get the suggestion of a family feud, a dispute, maybe fighting over inheritance, or maybe even making a bad investment for your future. Another message could be that you're not taking care of your finances and planning well for retirement. Now, I always presumed that the couple under the archway was a married couple and that either the man or the woman was related to the old man, was either his daughter or his son. And if we look at the card again, something occurred to me. The man under the archway is wearing a blue cape, and the child also wears a blue tunic, and they're the same pattern, the same texture. So to me, this indicates that the man of the couple is the one related to the older man. So it's a lineage. The man and the child are direct descendants of the elder man, and they can carry on his name. It's ancestry, right? So why don't we see how Kate describes the Ten of Pentacles in her book? Well, she says, the Ten of Pentacles feels hectic, busy, and full. There are details filling every corner of this card's imagery, from children and loyal pets to elders and a community. Everyone feels the security and abundance spilling out. The card revolves around fulfillment, family. Therefore, it's generous, it's wholesome, and it's pure in intention. Kate also says, the earth element represents the strength and power of all things physical. If creating a sustainable stream of income or finding the partner who you can truly build a legacy with is your goal, this energy feels rich and supportive of those desires. Now, last episode we talked about finding abundance with the Nine of Pentacles. So we learned how to appreciate ourselves and validate ourselves without the need to seek approvals of others. But nines are not about full completion. They're about near completion. So we still had some work to do to make sure we could secure that abundance and create a legacy for ourselves and for our loved ones. Kate also says in her book, sit with that accomplishment and appreciate your independence. You've clearly done something right. Having worked hard, patiently and loyally committing to a process for seasons, if not years, you've collected resources you likely won't lose. There should be no doubt about what you deserve. Going back to Kate's book, The Inner Tarot, for every card she has a section called Connect with the Card. And for the Ten of Pentacles, she suggests that we do a little bit of thinking. She says we need to define and envision what we'd like our legacy to look like. What do you want for yourself and your long-term future? What do you wish to inspire or create in this world? Whose heart will it touch? And what change could you make? Now, usually I talk about Kate's Connect with the Cards suggestions at the end of the video. But today I wanted to mention it at the beginning because this is what I'm talking about today. Leaving your legacy. And it's very, very important that we leave our legacy, leave our mark in the world. Most of us don't want to be forgotten, right? Now, firstly, what is legacy? I think most people associate it with money, financial inheritance. You know, the parents leaving the kids money so they can fight over it. No, but really, I think a lot of people think that's what it is. And yes, it can be that, but it can be so much more. Look at me, for example. I'm on a fixed income. I ain't got no money. Plus, I don't have any kids. Well, not the human kind. I got the furry kind over here, but I don't have any family to leave any money to. If I had money, I would leave it to friends. But this is what I'm talking about. There are so many ways that you can leave your mark on this world and leave your legacy. Why don't we define legacy? Well, the dictionary definition says that legacy is either a gift by will, especially of money or other personal property, or something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor or from the past. Now, I wasn't too happy about this definition, either one of those two, so I kept digging and I saw another definition that I thought was more appropriate for today. And that definition is the lasting impact or influence that a person, event, or organization has had on society through their accomplishments. So generally speaking, legacy implies that there is something that's passed down from one generation to another, whether it's material, intangible, or cultural, a lasting impact or influence that a person, organization, or event has had on society, whether it's a piece of property, a tradition, a reputation, or an idea. Here are some examples of legacies that have had a lasting effect on our society. And these are just a few of them. We have the discovery of fire, the invention of the wheel, the language, architecture, and engineering of the Roman Empire. We wouldn't have indoor plumbing without the Romans, I believe. Marie Curie's work with radioactivity, the influence of Susan B. Anthony on women's rights, Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership of the civil rights movement, and the list can go on. But it doesn't just have to be a person leaving a legacy. Think about the recent legacy of coronavirus and how it has reshaped our society and the world. The same thing could be said for the Spanish flu and the Black Plague. Legacies aren't always positive, but there are many, many lessons you can learn from them. And I can give you a personal example. In January of 1998, I was living in downtown Montreal in Canada. I was living in an apartment with my two little dogs. we were experiencing the effects of an El Nino weather system. It's a weather system, it's a phenomena that brings milder temperatures to the winter. And because I live north in Canada, we got rain for a week instead of snow at the beginning of January. But the problem happened when that El Nino kind of shifted, and it turned the rain overnight to freezing rain, and it was devastating. The freezing rain was too heavy for the power lines, too heavy for the trees. The power lines snapped, tree branches fell on them too, on cars and homes too. A lot of people, there was so much damage. People died too. It was awful. But people were without any power for weeks, and I'm talking businesses too. As you can imagine, living without power below freezing, it is not fun. And those who had fireplaces and wood stoves were really in luck, right? That's for sure. But I was alone in that apartment. As the temperatures started to get even colder during that January, it got worse. I could see my breath as I breathed in my apartment, and thank God I had my 2 little dogs with me. We were all keeping each other warm under blankets. But the streets were just ice. It was a nightmare trying to take them out to pee and poop. It was really cold even inside. And I remember having maybe 30 bucks on me, and none of the bank machines were working. And the water was contaminated. You couldn't drink it. And I was lucky. I had enough store, a good store of dog food and candles, but I had no water and I had no heat. And I remember one day going to a local store. They were price gouging everything, especially water bottles. It was dangerous. People were fed up, and there were fights. There were physical fights. There were police everywhere. Stores were looted. It was not a good situation. The army was called in, and I remember peeking out my window one night on a really, really cold night and watching the army guys, the soldiers, I should say, walking down the ice-covered roads. They were knocking on doors in every apartment they could get into, insisting that people go to shelters, but the shelters were not allowing pets. Can you imagine? So when I heard that knock on my door, even though my dogs barked, I didn't say a word. And I had my chain on, so they couldn't come in and force me out. They didn't get me. I had 2 pugs, and their names were Winston and Spencer, and here's a picture of them. You can see my little Spencer has only one eye in this photo. Before his eye was surgically removed, I'd been bringing him to the only canine ophthalmologist in the city for treatment. Actually, she was outside of the city. I would normally take the commuter train and then a bus to get to her office because I didn't drive back then. Well, as Murphy's Law would have it, of course, Spencer's eyes started bleeding during the ice storm. And, it never occurred to me that the trains wouldn't be running. I thought maybe, okay, the buses won't be running on the other end, but I could probably walk 45 minutes to the vet, or I could call a cab or something like that. So at that point, we were back into winter weather. It was snowing and freezing and still no power. So I packed up the pugs. I had one backpack, and I had a backpack in the front, so one in the back and one in the front. And it was grueling. I walked the hour with those pugs in that freezing cold snowstorm to get to the train station. And when I got there, there was nobody around. And I saw the sign that says, trains are not running. And I remember sitting down, just plopping down on one of those benches, and I started crying my eyes out. I was just truly fed up. I was so alone. My parents at the time, it was 1998, they told me I could stay at their place, but I couldn't bring my dogs. What the hell? Imagine. Anyway, so I felt really, really alone. Aside from that trauma from my parents, I was sitting out there in the cold, just crying, and there was a police car that drove up and parked in front of me. There were 2 police officers, and one got out and he asked me if I was okay, and I told him everything. I'm like, I can't, I've been without power for a week, my dog's eye is bleeding, I can't get to the bed, I have no money. I was just traumatized. It was, it was terrible. And they actually drove me and my dogs to the vet. It took over an hour to get there. It was outside of the city. We had to take the highway. Those police officers even waited for me outside the vet's office while the vet was looking at Spencer and treating him. And just on one note, that vet, she had known me for a long time, and I didn't have any money. I said, I can give you a check because I have money in my bank account, but none of the Interact machines were working. I said, you know me, you can trust me. I'm not going to walk away without paying. And she told me that she was going to keep my dog until I paid her. Imagine. And she knew me. She'd been treating Spencer for years and years and years. And I decided to play hardball. And I said, you see that police car outside? They're waiting to drive me home. Shall I invite them in? And she just looked at me and she said, fine, I'll accept a check. But you know, in times like that, instead of pulling together like the police officers pulled together out of kindness and probably out of duty, which is fine, the vet decided that she was going to do the money grubbing thing. But I'm just giving you two examples, and I'm getting to the legacy part here in my long-winded way. I was out of power for under 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks. And I remember the moment the lights went back on, I heard that wonderful tick, tick, tick sound of the baseboard heaters, and it never sounded so good. You know, in the middle of the night, if you have baseboard heaters and they go tick, 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 sometimes you're like, just want to sleep. Well, that was the best sound I'd heard that year anyway. But this brings me to the legacy of the 1998 ice storm, and it wasn't just in Montreal, it was all across the east coast of Canada, and I believe the States too. It made such an impact on me. Its legacy made such an impact on me that I vowed to never live in an apartment ever again. That summer, I did not renew my lease. I did rent a small house, and it had a fireplace. I never lived in an apartment building ever again, with the exception of a few months, and that was it when I was in between trying to find somewhere. But it was in the summer, so I didn't have to worry about losing heat. I always rented little houses and little cottages, and the deal breaker for me was that it had to have a fireplace or a wood stove. It had to have an alternate source of heat. I also started a savings account that I never had before because I had to be able to get my driver's license and get a car so that I could take myself places under emergency situations. Now that I own my own house, I make sure to always have gallons of extra water, extra food that doesn't need refrigeration and heating. Of course, lots of pet supplies. I have a box of paper plates, bowls and cups. I have plastic utensils in case I don't have water for an extended amount of time. At least I don't have to do dishes because I have a well, and when the power goes out, the well pump doesn't work, right? I have tons of candles. You can't shake a stick at the amount of candles I have now. And I have power supplies that are always charged in case I need to charge my phone. My gas tank is always filled. And this year I was finally able to buy a generator. And so I feel that the legacy of the 1998 ice storm for me was the lesson of preparedness. And you can bet all the nickels in this world that most people did not learn from this lesson during the people in the cities, I'm saying. There are over 2 million people who live in Montreal, in that city. And I'm sure a large portion of those people live in apartments, right? And that have no backup heat, no backup electricity sources, and they didn't learn from that disaster. They did not learn from the legacy of the ice storm. Now, as a disclaimer, I am not referring to low-income residents. People on low income simply don't have many choices, and my heart goes out to them because I was there at one time in my life. You just kind of have to deal with what you've got. I'm talking about people who can afford to be prepared, and they just don't because they figure, it's not going to happen again. So, my story is just an example of how legacies don't necessarily have to do with people. Mother Nature can teach us some great lessons through her legacies, that's for sure. Why don't we define the types of legacies? Now, there are 4 types of legacies. The number 1 is personal legacy. This includes the values, beliefs, and traditions passed down within a family. It might be ethical principles a parent instills in their children, or cultural heritage preserved through generations. I'm reminded of folk tales and folk songs when I think of personal legacy. Number 2, we've got professional legacy. This includes contributions to one's field of work. An example could be a teacher whose methods inspire future generations of educators, or a scientist whose discoveries pave the way for further research. Look at the invention of electricity. That's a great example of a professional legacy. We have philanthropic legacy. Many people choose to leave a lasting impact through charitable activities. This could be through foundations, donations, initiatives that continue to support causes that they were passionate about. Think of Betty Ford and her legacy. She left the legacy through the Betty Ford Clinic, helping people overcome substance addiction. Now we have creative legacy. Artists, writers, musicians, and other creative people leave a lasting legacy through their works. They influence culture and inspire future generations. How many times are we moved by a song we've heard, by a work of art that lights us up, or by a novel that inspires us? These are wonderful legacies. Along with what Kate suggests that we think about, I really wanted to suggest some realistic ways that we can create a lasting legacy. When I think about the afterlife, I'm just like, I don't want to be forgotten, you know? I really don't want to be forgotten. I want to leave a legacy for myself. So I thought I'd give you 6 suggestions on ways that you can leave a legacy. Let's keep in mind, to create a lasting legacy, it's really important to think about the values and actions that align with your life purpose and your passions. The first way is teaching. Sharing knowledge and guiding others can have a profound, lasting impact. By mentoring, you pass on wisdom and skills that can benefit future generations. Number 2, philanthropy and volunteering. Engaging in charitable activities and supporting causes you care about can create a significant legacy. Whether through time, money, or resources, your contributions can lead to lasting change. And I think it's important to stress, it doesn't just have to be about money. You can invest your time and dedication, and that can really make an impact. Number 3, documenting your life story. Writing memoirs, creating YouTube channels, or compiling family histories can preserve your experiences and insights for future generations. This, my friends, is how I am leaving my legacy. My YouTube channels are my contribution to my legacy. At least for now, that's what I have going. Number 4, establishing traditions. Traditions create a sense of continuity and belonging. Establishing and maintaining family rituals can be a meaningful way to leave a legacy, because it'll be passed on through generations. They'll have those family rituals, and that keeps your memory alive. Number 5, innovating and creating. Whether in business, science, arts, or technology, innovation can lead to advancements that benefit society. Your contributions can continue to have an impact long after you're gone. Like I was saying before about a song you hear, or a book you just love to read. Those artists have left a great legacy to countless people. Number 6, investing in education. Supporting educational initiatives, scholarships, and institutions can ensure further generations have access to knowledge and opportunities. When I was at university, I was granted a few scholarships, and it always made me feel so grateful for the person who created those scholarships, for students who really, really wanted to learn. What a great legacy to leave. I think that legacy is so important because it connects us to the past. It's a way to make sure that our lives matter and that our contributions endure. By understanding what legacy is and how to create a meaningful one, we can live our life with purpose and intention, knowing that our actions today will shape tomorrow. Isn't that amazing to know that what we leave as our legacy will have an impact on even just one person in the future? I think that's really great, and it makes me feel really good about it. I was reading an article on legacy, and I wanted to mention this. There are 2 other types of legacy that I love so much. One is the legacy of kindness, helping those in need, unselfish acts of service, promoting equality. These actions, this legacy of kindness, can have an amazingly positive impact on the world of tomorrow. There is also leaving a legacy of perseverance. This is talking about and sharing overcoming personal challenges and inspiring people to do the same. You could write a book about a really difficult situation you went through, or you can have a YouTube channel about that. What you're doing is you're inspiring people to realize that they can get through it, because guess what? You did too. And that's a wonderful legacy to leave. Now, we can't forget, we must honor our legacies. Preserving a legacy by storytelling, by memoirs, or even continuing someone's work after they've passed away. Sharing traditions and maintaining strong values, passing those on to others. These are all examples of honoring our legacies. And as I mentioned previously, my legacy is going to be my YouTube channels. For now, I have other things on the cooker, but for now, my mark that I'm leaving on the world is my YouTube channels. Now, I'm trying to align my personal values and my passions and my strong desire to help people with the videos that I make. These are online and they will be forever. And my hope is always that I will share what I share will impact someone out there in a positive way. Now or tomorrow or in 20 years or after I'm gone, this is what I hope for. And I just wanted to mention something. When you delete something on YouTube, it's not gone. It's really not gone. There is something called the Internet Archive. If you don't know anything techie, I won't go into that. But basically, it's a crawler. And it crawls through the internet all the time. And it picks up images of websites. And it copies websites. And it goes onto the Internet Archive. So if you decided you want to delete your YouTube channel today, well, if the crawler went through YouTube yesterday, it's going to have everything up to yesterday saved in the Internet Archive. So what you think you've deleted, it's not really deleted. Someone can find it if they search for it. Okay, I just wanted to mention that because a lot of people think that once it's deleted, it's deleted. It's not. So be very careful what you want to leave as your legacy if you are online. Okay, now the question is, what will your legacy be? We're at the end of the Pentacles cycle now. We've been through a lot during this suit, and now the idea is to try to build your legacy. So let's go back to Kate's book. She has a section for each card called Deeper Reflection, and for the Ten of Pentacles, she says, it's been a long cycle, and it's time to thank your body now. Through evolving seasons and arduous work and joyful miracles, your body stuck by you. That's true, isn't it? Our body stuck by us. So she suggests that it's time to create some space in your day for some somatic practice. What you want to do is choose a body part that brings up insecurity and place your hands there. Now, my friends, it's my voice. It's speaking my truth. This area of my body does bring up insecurity because I also have trouble swallowing food. So my throat chakra is all messed up. So this is the practice that I'd like you to try. Breathe deeply. Observe what you feel. What do you feel physically? What do you feel emotionally when you hold your hands to that area of your body that brings up insecurity? How is your body speaking to you as you take time to honor it? Now for me, physically, I feel like my throat closes up. I feel my pulse throbbing. Emotionally, I feel silenced and shamed. My body is telling me that I may be overwhelmed and that I may also need to work on past traumas that left me feeling invisible. Ask yourself, could you be more kind and loving to this part of your body? For me, I could be more compassionate towards myself when I feel like I'm too afraid to speak up. I could also honor the fact that speaking up can be scary, but not let that stop me from speaking my truth. I could also try to do more relaxation so that I'm able to swallow food better. I could also remove toxicity and stressors from my life. I do this already, but I can do it more to honor my body. I always hold a turquoise crystal when I'm doing this exercise, and I wear it because turquoise is the color of the throat chakra. And this reminds me to honor this part of my body. The last part of this somatic exercise is to pull out your journal, write and reflect on the following. Thank you, body, for teaching me that. And write what you want to write. I'd like to leave a link for you in the description below to an article that you might find interesting. It's called Inspiring Legacy Quotes to Leave a Lasting Impact. Again, it's linked in the description below. Now, every week, I always leave you some general journal prompts about the card, and these are 4 general journal prompts that you can use with regards to the Ten of Pentacles, and they're from the book Journaling with the Tarot. The first one is, what new family tradition should you begin, and why? What current traditions feel good, and why? What traditions should you put to rest? That's an interesting one. And here's another one that we often try to avoid. How comfortable are you with the fact of your own mortality? That's a heavy one, right? I also have a book called Trauma Healing Journal. And for this series, I'll share a specific trauma healing prompt with you. This week, the prompt is under the heading Artistic Expression and Healing. Describe the ways in which creativity has helped you release emotions and share your experiences. I just wanted to remind you that all of the journal prompts that I mention in this episode will be listed in the downloadable PDF workbook that I have linked in the description below. Now, every episode I like to pull an oracle card to emphasize the idea of the subject of the show, which is leaving your legacy. Now, this card is from Whispers of Healing Oracle deck. I pulled the Seek Seclusion card. If we look at this image, we see a maiden sleeping on the edge of the forest. There are fairies watching over her. She's very safe. The forest seems to be made of peacock feathers. And it's said that the peacock feathers are the eyes of heaven. She is in a magical place where she can retreat. A tree spirit plays a morning glory trumpet. Imagine how that must sound. Serenading the maiden. There is so much peace in this image. So much can be gained from spending time in seclusion. I think this image goes very well with the idea of building your legacy. We can't just snap our fingers and figure out what we want to leave to this world. It requires thought, and it needs to be aligned with what we truly believe in. Maybe life is too busy for you to think about your legacy, but just remember how quickly time flies, my friends. I always also like to pull a card for the collective with regards to the general subject of today's show. Now, today I chose 2 cards, and these cards are from the Secret Language of Color deck. The cards are Azure and Jade. The Azure card says protect yourself, while the Jade card says take action. When I pulled these 2 cards, my immediate thought was make a will. Now, this does have to do with our legacies, because if we pass away without making a will, what do you think happens to our assets, our properties, or even our remains? All of this can be dictated by the court system. Personally speaking, I would not want my body and remains to be legally awarded to certain people just because they are blood relatives. So with regards to leaving your legacy, please, my friends, protect yourself and take action to make a legal will. Please do that. I still have to do it, but I plan on doing it before the end of next year because it's a little pricey, but it's so important. Try to save money and create a legal will so the wrong people don't get your stuff and your body. So why don't we go to the key points of today's show? Well, what are the key points? Number 1, hard work leads to abundance and security. Number 2, a legacy isn't simply financial inheritance. It can be so much more. Number 3, there are many types of legacies that we can leave to the world. Number 4, leaving a legacy means we will not be forgotten. Number 5, taking time to think about what legacy means to us will help us take the necessary action to create our own legacy. That's our show for today, my friends. What do you think? Please leave me a comment. I love to read your comments and I do reply to all of them. I hope that this episode resonated with someone out there, and I hope that you got something meaningful and valuable. And like I said, I'd like to hear about it in the comments. Please do all the YouTubey stuff, like, subscribe, hit notification bells, share, and again, leave me a comment. So, next week, we are going to be talking about the Page of Pentacles. Until then, my friends, take care of yourselves, be well, think about your legacy, and I'll see you next time. I'm tapping my heart, sending you lots of love. Bye.